Hey, something that's been on my mind recently is just the idea of core values. And I think my personal relationship with core values is interesting, coming from my Mormon background. So up until about 2 years ago, I was Mormon, 2.5, I would say. And it's really interesting. When you grow up in a very strict and orthodox religion, a lot of your values are kind of given to you. So it's been a very interesting process leaving that religion and having, first of all, feeling the loss of that structure, right? That value structure, right? It's not like all my values went away, but I had to kind of reassess each one of those core values that I grew up with and claim the ones that I wanted and disregard the ones that I didn't want, right? That's an interesting process because I think nobody teaches you how to do this, right? At least not in the Mormon religion and background. So I kind of had to learn all this stuff for myself, and it was an interesting realization. I remember after I left, it was about 1.5 years before I started to really feel the pain of that decision and like to really feel like the missingness of that structure and life purpose and lack, like a needing to define my life and to define what the purpose was. And core values, I think, went a long way in doing that. And so, this is still such a process for me, and I'll probably never finish refining my core values. Just want to talk a little bit about what my core values are right now. I think one of my biggest core values is self-expression, and I think this definitely led to my decision to leave the Mormon church, which is like in Mormon culture, individualism and being yourself and expressing yourself and being a little bit weird and stuff is not valued, like really at all. I think, like, well, maybe that's a little too strong wording it. Like, that culture defines these very hard boundaries that I think are really small. And it was interesting because, like, I never knew anything different. But when I made that decision to leave, I think it was driven somewhat by this realization that there's a misalignment with values, that my core values that I have are at odds with the Mormon church, and in particular this one of self-acceptance or self-expression. I think it's a very important thing and a very beautiful thing, and now more than ever I think this is the case. It's a beautiful thing to look inside yourself, see who you are, and learn how to be radically yourself and to express yourself in interesting ways. And an interesting experience happened. When I left Mormonism, shortly after I left the country and flew to Thailand. And it was fascinating because, like, I remember sitting around with a bunch of people that I'd met in Thailand and saying, hey, this is like my 5th beer, right? Lots of new experiences and lots of exploration going on. But one thing that I found that really blew me away was when I was meeting new people, there were parts of myself that I'd learned to keep hidden, that I'd kind of learned to like press down, if that makes sense. And what I found was the more I expressed sort of these edge, like I'd be really timid about it almost, but the more I expressed these parts of myself that I considered to be like the edge parts of my personality that I learned to hide, the more I expressed those edge parts of myself, the happier I was, and the more friends that I made, the deeper relationships and connections that I made, and it was a very eye-opening experience. And it kind of solidified this value of mine of self-expression. And so I like this idea so much that actually my tattoo, one tattoo that I have, is symbolic of that core value of self-expression. These triangles stand for the edges of a bell curve, right? So if you chart like the height of a human population, or even like grades in school, they fall on a bell curve where the majority are in the middle, but the edges are like the very high, very rare, tall people and the very short people, you know what I mean? But so this theory, like this kind of metaphor that I've come up with, is I think that there's lots of parts of ourselves that are in the general curve of human characteristics, right? But those are not the things that make us unique. The things that really make us unique are the edge parts, the things that we stand out. And I think we learn to hide or pull back those edges just because they can be painful sometimes. They can really make us stand out, give us unwanted attention in some ways. But this tattoo is a reminder. These triangles stand for those edges, and it's a reminder to not shy away from expressing the edge parts of myself. And even if it didn't have, I think, positive benefits like making more friends or whatever, just the very fact that I think some of it has to be that because I was expressing myself authentically, that I was able to make those friendships, right? I don't think it was the actual characteristics themselves that I was expressing. I think it was just being authentic allowed me to connect with other people. So that's definitely a big core value of mine. I think I don't have time to go into some of the others, but I do want to share one more core value that I heard on a podcast that has been really just bouncing around in my mind for the last few days. And the value is warriorship. And the way he described it was warriorship is bravely rising to the challenge of each experience in each moment, right? It's a bravery thing. And I love this idea just because I don't know, sometimes life just does need some bravery, you know what I mean? And I don't know. It's just something that's been on my mind a lot. I love that terminology of warriorship because it's expressing this idea of being a warrior, but within the context of the war within yourself, if that makes sense. So I'm definitely gonna be thinking about that more. I think that might be another core value that I'll have to add to my life, and but I really like it. So, all right, that's all for the day. Peace.